Peter, first of all, let's kick off with SoftBank, because the numbers, there was some signs of a pickup in subscriptions to Sprint, but is it enough?
Well, that is the question for investors. They've been concerned about Sprint for years. The company has lost money for many quarters in a row. At this point, it's struggling to compete against T-Mobile, not to mention AT&T and Verizon. But those losses in the Sprint business have been offset by a very stable, very profitable Japanese business. The wireless operations here and the internet business here have been quite strong. It's interesting, though. Masayoshi Son had his press conference yesterday after the earnings, and he wants to talk about things beyond the quarterly earnings. At this point, he was talking to investors about this fund that they're raising. They're trying to raise about $100 billion to make investments, and he is very focused on the future and what they're going to be able to do if they do close this fund.
And also that fund is a way of perhaps wooing the new President Donald Trump. And any inclination as to whether they would be able to cozy up a little bit closer to T-Mobile US?
Well, that's a question also on investors' minds. At this point, Sprint has actually become the smaller company, and T-Mobile is bigger. Masayoshi Son tried to combine those two companies a few years back. There's been speculation that Trump would be more permissive than the Obama administration and let that deal happen. It's possible at this point, but again, Sprint has become so much smaller that the balance of power between the two companies is quite different than it was in the past. In this press conference, Son did talk about the United States. He talked about Trump. He talked about his aspirations to invest in the country. I remember he had this meeting with Trump in December, and he's talked quite a bit about what SoftBank wants to do in the United States.
Now, let's switch gears, because we're hearing a lot about President Trump and indeed Masayoshi Son. Let's flip gears and look at Bitcoin now, because this was a significant move that we saw in terms of the price of Bitcoin. It was a great piece of journalism coming out with Bloomberg reporting that the exchanges of Bitcoin were actually being brought in to meet with the central bank.
That's right. China has become very central to the Bitcoin market at this point. It's the most active trading location. Also, most of the miners are in China at this point, so they're generating most of the new currency that comes out. And the attractions for Bitcoin are quite a few. I mean, one, it lets you avoid any kind of central authority. In China, of course, there are restrictions on how much currency people can bring out of the country. So if you can convert that into Bitcoin, it gives you a way to get currency out of the country pretty effectively. And there have been concerns that Bitcoin is also used for money laundering. So our reporters broke this story that leaders of the Bitcoin exchanges have been called in by the central bank in China yesterday. This happened yesterday, and that fueled these concerns that there could be some additional tightening on the Bitcoin market in China, and that just dropped the price of Bitcoin very dramatically yesterday.